We're here talking about how to use Sam.gov to get your first win. That's what we're here talking about. I'm just on Sam.gov, not even logged in. You go to advanced search and you go to set aside and you just type in total small business. What I also like to do is you activate the dates feature and do within the next 3 months. So we did 3 months, total small business set aside. So here on Sam.gov, you can see there's 2,800 different opportunities. So after you selected next 3 months, total small business, now you want to go to notice type, solicitation, combined synopsis. So now we've narrowed that down to 2,192 opportunities that every single one of us here could bid on. So I'm also going to talk about how you look at these opportunities. So here I'm going to share a different screen with you here for a second. And here is an opportunity that was sent. It was still sent in an email. Maybe some of you received this, some of you didn't. I see my computer needs to be updated, or not updated, but like restarted. So this is an opportunity, relocation services. It's a total small business. It's due in, 9 days. I like things that have at least 10 days between them. This is cutting it close, because usually if there's fewer than 10 days, it means it's pretty much wired for somebody. And they start to describe it. They're saying it's relocation, include the move of staff, faculty, offices, and conference. So for those of you who reach out and you're like, hey, I have trucks, I do moving, I do things all around that, I really want a contract. This is basically the type of work you would bid on. Or those of you who are like, I don't do any of that, but there's no reason I couldn't find someone to do it. So I'm going to talk more about this. And also, in case you're like, why does that thing keep spinning? This is a really good lesson for everyone here. So sometimes I'm on Chrome right now. There may be a time where maybe there's some update, who knows? So when I'm on Sam.gov, it's spinning and I can't see the attachment. So does that mean I throw up my hands and say, forget this, I'm not going to do it, or call somebody? No, you try a new browser. That's all you do. You restart your computer. So this is something to be aware of. If this ever happens to you and you have that little wheel spinning there, it just means there's attachments, but for whatever reason, they're not going to show up on your system. So therefore, I'm going to see if it'll work on Firefox before I share the screen with everyone. Can you all see this right here? So this one is really short, relatively. It's only 73 pages. So what's important on here is you want to find out, what are they looking for you to do? What are the requirements? Are you going to make money doing this? Is this something that you can find somebody to do and doesn't make sense for you? Because you can see the work is, you got a month, you're going to pick up the stuff in Annapolis, Maryland, and deliver it to a different part of Annapolis, Maryland. So if you're in Keokuk, Iowa, and you have a bunch of trucks, are you willing to drive to Annapolis, Maryland? Or maybe you find a company in Annapolis, Maryland to do this for you instead of you doing it. They also have a site visit, and it says it's required. And this is not something that you have to physically go to. It can be somebody who's representing you. This is really important because you want to make sure you're aware of what they're looking for. It's important to go because you get to see what is it that they're really moving, and you get to build a relationship. That's really, really key. And you can see all the different details are here. Everything that you're going to need to do, all of it is here. For qualifications, it just says experience, education, task-specific expertise. And then it goes on. Here's another tip. This is a big strategy. Anytime you see this, a wage determination, it means you're supposed to pay a person the amount that's there plus health and welfare or equivalent, in benefits. But remember, this is like a one and done. What this is also code for is they're not looking to pay a lot of money for this. Does that mean you can't make a profit? No, it doesn't mean that at all. It's just things for you to be aware of, because this is something that you could, in my opinion, you could easily win. It's just a matter of, is this something you want to actually bid on? And then you can see the document. They go into detail as far as what they're looking for you to move. There's a ton of information here, but I want you just to see what would go into something like this. What I also like to do is every time I get one of these documents, I'll do a search for evaluation. And it talks about to see like what's most important to them. Because if I don't know how they're judging this, then how do I even know if I stand a chance to win? And here's the deal. Some people out there will talk about, oh, things are a numbers game, things are this, things are that. It's all about what is your goal with Sam.Gov. There's no reason you can't win a contract. We just saw over 2,000 things being available. So to win, all it takes is one win. You don't have to bid on 30 things a month to win. So for this, it says most advantageous for pricing. You're going to look at the pricing and compare with independent government estimates. No different than us. You want to buy a car. Well, what are you going to do? Grab your phone. You go on cars.com. You go on to all these websites. So then you have an idea of what the car should cost. The government isn't any different. So did that make sense? So there's 2,192. I'm the kind of person where I like to look through these, and here's why. So here's my thought. If you bid on a product, you just need to have the cash flow. That's it. If it's something where you're like, hey, I can easily use credit cards or other money to maybe spend $10,000 on something, fine. But I had a coaching client, he won a furniture contract that was like pushing 6 figures. And thankfully, his father was able to bankroll one. I mean, he ended up making a good profit, but how many times can you do that? I mean, it's great because you're like, wow, thanks, Dad, for fronting this money. And I don't remember exactly how much he made. I'd have to look on my phone. Let's say he made $40,000. That's amazing. But how many times can you do that? So those are things to really just keep in the back of your mind when doing products, is having that funds that are there. And also, we all don't have a father, mother, a relative who's like, hey, here's $100,000, just use our money. So those are other things to think about, because what happens and what pains me is I get on my phone and I have all these DMs. Hey, I won this contract. I don't have any money. Can you give me the money? I mean, like, this is not the bank of kizzy parts. And, it's not to be rude. It's just like, sometimes these are part of the learning taxes, and the government's not going to give you the money up front. So I like services because usually you can say, hey, I'll pay you in 30 days, 60 days. Some people we pay in 180, just depending. And here's why. Because big companies do that. Why is it that a big company can take 180 days to pay, but I can't? No, there's no difference. We're both entrepreneurs. I'm going to go over a couple more of these. Again, I like to look at everything because I want to see what are these things that are being desired. So you have this. I'm going to choose this one. I'm actually not going to choose this one. I'm going to tell you why. It was published on the 6th. It's due on the 9th. If you think that's rigged for somebody, please type yes in the comment. If you think that is rigged for somebody. It was released on the 6th, due on the 9th for tables, chairs, and linen. It's rigged. So don't spend time on it. It doesn't matter if your cousin, your second cousin, your sister, your mama, your husband, your wife. It doesn't matter. Let it go. And you may say, wow, Kizzy, there's so many to look through. Isn't there an easier way to do this? Of course there is. An easier way is you type in your NAICS code over here. So now it's only going to give me the NAICS codes that fall under the categories that I have selected. Solicitation, combined solicitation, due in 3 months, total small business. So there's 8. So what tends to happen is you see 8 and then you get discouraged. And I don't want you to get discouraged. And so that's why I like looking at the 2,000, because then something may catch your eye. You may say, oh, I can sell batteries. Oh, I can figure out sheep shearing. Oh, I can figure out how to sell iPhones. There's an opportunity right now for iPhones and Samsung phones on Unis. So, but just taking a look at this, and this is one of my main NAICS codes: pastoral clinical care supervision services. I actually like this kind of stuff right here, and it's due in March. So this is something I would dig into, but you definitely have to read to learn more of what are they seeking. So a pastoral care clinical supervisor to provide clinical supervision with this chaplains for 1 year plus 4-year options. So this is for 5 years. And we talked earlier about that. So basically, I can already tell you what they're looking for because we have similar work to this. That while it's coded as training, it's staffing in a way is really what it is. And we'll double check. I'll go into I'll show you guys the attachments here in a second. That's why it's also key to dig deep, because I'm at the point, because I've been doing this for almost 20 years now, although I'm 28 and a half. I just know what these opportunities desire. And this is something that I picked up because I've done it so many times. And that's why I love making videos on this, is to help everyone here. So then you too can just grow your ability to quickly go through opportunities, because all it takes is one win. Once you have your first win, you're golden. It's going to increase your confidence. It shows the federal government that you're able to actually contract. It's a beautiful thing. So what I ended up doing is I pulled up the information. And so what they're looking for are a variety of training sessions. So it's training, but it's big bucket. This is considered services, because you're paying people, person, or people to provide this training. And also it's staffing, because these people have to provide all of these trainings. It looks like there's 48 small group trainings and 30 individual group trainings. So this isn't just, so with this, because this is a 5-year contract, these are people that you need them to provide the services over the 5-year period. So you need to make sure that you take really good care of them, that you provide the services that you need, because you never want them to end the contract early. So why am I spending so much time on this, you may wonder? I'm spending so much time on this is because, if you recall, I typed in the training name, right? And it is training, yes, but in reality, it's you project managing, you dealing with staffing for the course of 5 years. This isn't just, oh, they want one training, there you go, right? So these are things to be aware of, because you may say, oh, this is perfect. You may say, oh, this isn't perfect. And for those of you who are in training and you're like, oh, I want to find a training contract, that's a perfect training contract, because there are people out there who specialize in that line of training. So we have a project management course, the Kirkpatrick model course, communications workshop, role playing. You can see there's a lot of different options. There aren't a ton listed here. So the other thing you have to think about when it comes to using SAM, and that is expanding. If you're like, look, all I'm going to sell in life are wrist guards, well, it better be their best wrist guard, and you better have some high power people putting it out there, or you're spending a lot of money on advertising, because I honestly don't know of many brands that sell one thing. I mean, do you? I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, and it's like, all they do is sell wrist guards. All I do is sell French fries. I can't think of that. So the same thing goes here. The way that you get your first win using Sam.gov is by expanding your mind, by saying, hey, I could bid on something different. Yeah, I may have a background in training. Maybe there's something else that fits what you do. So I know that there have been some questions around, and I'm going to go back to advanced search, about your NAICS, and do you have to use the NAICS that you submitted and things like that. No, you can bid on anything you desire. Do you need to update your NAICS code within SAM? Honestly, it really depends. Sometimes they'll say some things like, you must have the NAICS code. I mean, but I feel like that's just an artificial hurdle. I only date people with straight hair. I mean, really? Like, you only date people with straight hair? I mean, it's like, I can't think of like this hard and fast rule where like you have to have the NAICS code in your account. You can just go back and add it, but you can literally bid on anything. We sold Oculus headsets to the Air Force, and that NAICS code was like computer manufacturing. Really, I didn't manufacture those Oculus headsets whatsoever. So again, advanced search, 3 months, total small business, notice type. And the reason that I do combined and solicitation is because these are things they're buying, like we're buying. And also at the bottom, you can increase this to 100. And for the best strategy out of all of this, because you all have been so patient with me, when you log in, it'll unlock a feature and you can download all of these into an Excel file. It makes it so simple. So then that way you could just go through the Excel file, or you further filter. So then you're only focused on the things that you want. How do you know which NAICS codes to use? That's why I like scrolling to see what are they buying. Like if something is of interest to you, let me know because I want to show you something. So I'll scroll like, okay. So far there's nothing here where I'm like, oh man, I'm really interested. This one's kind of interesting, but it was published on the 6th and due on the 8th. No. 2 snowmobiles. Okay. That's kind of cool. I love the USDA. We have contracts with them. I could get the money to pay for the snowmobiles. So then I look, oh, okay. It's 336110. That's how this agency decided to classify it. 336110. So sometimes you learn by doing exactly what I'm showing, and this is what I do. The other way that you do it is, and I'll share the link with you. I prefer this one. Somebody typed in office supplies. There you go. So you go to that website, you type it in, and then you have the NAICS. But just bear in mind, sometimes when you enter that NAICS into Sam.gov, it's like, but there's no opportunities. There's nothing here for me. Well, if you're only selling one thing, if all you want to sell are wrist guards, well, yeah, not everybody needs a wrist guard. But when you work in a call center nonstop, you need a wrist guard. So those are some things to think about. And I love what Antonio said here too, because he's won multiple contracts. It's very easy. All you're doing is submitting. It requires a lot of reading and you're doing the administrative side of things. Yes, that's so spot on. It's so true. And here's the bonus. Sam.gov is the #1 place for opportunity. Many wonder, well, Kizzy, isn't there another site? Can't I go to, Divs or GPO or Unison, or isn't there someplace else? Or can I find, simplified acquisitions and micro purchases? Like, listen, everything is Sam.gov. Like, there's other techniques and there's other places where the government buys. But for those of you looking to get your first win, it's Sam.gov all day, every day. You just saw, I'll go on the back screen. There's over 2,000 opportunities. 2,000 opportunities. 2,192 due in the next 3 months. We haven't even hit third quarter. All it takes is doing what most people aren't going to do. No, most people aren't watching a live at an evening. Most people aren't pondering buying a book. I don't want to buy her book. Why am I going to buy this person's book? This is a space of you learn, apply, adjust. Learn, apply, adjust. Learn, apply, adjust. That's what you do. I find that there are people out there who really make this seem like, I type and I win. And I keep bringing up Antonio because I know he's on here. And one thing that I really like about you, Antonio, is in our interview, you talked about how you would bid on something ridiculous, like 30 or 40 before you got your first win. Most people would bid on 2 and be like, I'm done, screw it, I ain't doing this. So it's keep in mind, I've been doing this for almost 20 years. So things come fast, but it didn't always come fast to me. I didn't know this stuff. I remember the first time this one guy gave me this RFP, I was like, what in the hell is this? I'm like, I have a freaking PhD. I'm going to understand what this stuff is. So it's, what can you understand? Well, you understand the fundamentals. Like there was one I saw that was interesting. Motorola Land Mobile Radio. I think we all kind of understand that. Here's one we would all understand. Document scanning services. This is FAA, I believe. No, Federal Highway. Federal Highway, that's the NAICS code. And they went document scanning services. And so then you'd open the attachments to read exactly what they're looking for. But on the surface, you have an idea. There's documents, they need to be scanned, right? And so if you're like, yeah, I got that, but I only want to do what I do. I only want to do event planning. Well, there may not be many opportunities. It's just something to keep in mind. How do we know how much we will need for each contract? It's all based on your expenses. So let's take the beans. If you are like, oh my gosh, I found somebody who offers these beans and they don't want to bid on it, because here's another strategy, y'all. You always want to verify that your vendor is not in Sam.gov. Or if they are in Sam.gov, ask them, I noticed that you're in Sam.gov. How come you're not just going to bid on this? And they may say, look, I just don't want to. Because sometimes people will say that to me, like, I'm sure you're going to bid on this. No, I'm not. And if you're offering to bid on it and include us, thank God, I don't have to do any of the work. So let's say the beans come to $75,000. So you would need to be able to pay them $75,000. And then you could add your profit. The profit, I like to shoot for 20%, but that's pretty much bare bones basic math on government contracting. It varies if we're talking about people providing certain services, but that in a nutshell is it. And to Antonio's point, a lot of people, they don't want to do the paperwork. I don't want to do the paperwork. We just want a contract. Listen, I don't even know what agency it's with because I don't run my companies. I'm focused on this. I'm focused on giving you so much value on YouTube. You're like, damn, does she do anything else? And I do. That's my thing. So we just won a contract with a company, 22nd Century, where we are a sub on a staffing opportunity. I want to say it's for the VA or somebody like that. And it's beautiful because we already subcontract to them. They've won the work. And so when the time comes, we just provide the resumes and the staff. It's way easier than us doing it. So you fill in staffing for beans, HVAC, sheep shearing, radios, point that Antonio made again. If you can provide these services again, they don't care. They don't care. Like, I can't express to you enough from just firsthand experience. Like, I remember when I saw this, I remember somebody contacted me, and I don't have my coins here. You get a coin when you do a really good job. And I have my coins in Melbourne, Florida. And I remember I got this call. It was like, hey, I heard about you, and I want you to speak to Fort Belvoir for Women's Observance Month. Okay. I'd never been paid in my life to be a public speaker. And he was like, how much do you charge? And I gave him some number, probably like $2,000, which to me was like $1 million. He's like, that's great. You're really cheap. And I just was like blown away. I was like, they're going to pay me to speak for 20 minutes? I think I was supposed to speak for an hour, but something happened that day. So I only got like 20 minutes. But their general gave me a coin. It's one of the biggest coins that I have from there. So I talked to some person who was like, oh, I bid high for every single thing so that when I win, I make sure I have a profit. Listen, God bless you. I think that's a great approach. I am all about what are your goals? So if you're like, listen, I just want to win, then you want to bid. You may want to bid low. You may want to bid where you break even. And you may be like, well, why would you want to do that? Sometimes people want it for past performance. Sometimes it's a confidence booster. I'm not saying to do these things. I'm just explaining, right? So how do you get an idea of how not to overbid? You can also, sometimes you can contact the contracting officer and they'll give you information. You can go and Google. You can ask them. This is the golden question that you ask every single time you're interested. Is there an incumbent? If so, what is their name? What is the contract number? What is the contract value? You always ask that. And they may not answer you. They may answer you. There are over 2,000 opportunities due in 3 months. You do not need a capability statement for any of them. All that they're looking for is that you meet the requirement. You're not going to land them on Fox News or CNN. You're going to deliver. That's all they're looking for. Now, if you're like, okay, I get it, but I still want a capability statement. Fair enough. What I like to do is create a section that's called past performance. And what I would do is list your employer because it's past performance. You didn't say that there were clients. You said it's past performance. So if you worked at Mercy Hospital, you could say past performance, Mercy Hospital. And when you talk about it, you could say, yeah, Mercy Hospital, I was a nurse, I was that. It's past performance, right? So it's a play on words. That's what it's all about. The getting started, listen. So here are the basics. You need to be a legal business. Make sure you have a legal business name. If you're legal with your state, please do all of those because often people who have difficulties in Sam.gov and they're frustrated, it's because they never paid their state the $200 fee, never finished filing. They got their tax ID, but then they never filed with the state. Okay, that's number one. Number two is you have to register in Sam.gov. Number three is you have to have this mindset of you're going to win. You're going to win contracts. Next is you have to be ready to read and research. Unless you're going to be very product specific. Next is you have to figure out, okay, and of course have a business bank account, but how are you going to fund some of these? What approach are you going to take? What kind of work do you want to bid on? And be open with yourself. Maybe you want to first start out as a subcontractor. Maybe you want to work for the government. One thing about Sam.gov is they're constantly changing their platform. I want you to see something here. So I put in a name of a company, one of them that I own, and you see the error message. So you have to log in and then I'll show you where you do it. So this is like the home screen, right? So I typed in the name and it says you must be signed in. So all you would have to do is sign in and then bam, that's how you would find the agents, the organization to see if they're in. That's the fastest way. And when you sign in, I know for my sign in, it's late to getting a text message, but I'm about to go soon. So that's the only reason why I didn't log in. But am I still sharing with you guys? Just let me stop. So for those of you who have an account, you pretty much know what this entails. For those of you who don't, I think you can use a pin or something. I do the text message option is what I do. So you can see the workspace. So here on the home screen, you see entity information, and now it's populated. And so that came up. So let's say the name of the company, like they have Smith Corp. Let's put in Davis. Let's put in Jones Corp. So then all of the terms are coming up, Jones Corp. So then you can search, and then when you click on it, you see all of their information is there. Their UEI, their cage code, their website, the type of business that they are, the name of the president, all of that's there. So then that way you know, oh, okay, they are a registered. So when you log in to Sam.gov, it unlocks features that aren't there unless you're logged in. I do want to bring this up as being a person who is currently outside of the United States. I am using a VPN. You don't need to use a VPN for Sam.gov, but for other government websites, you definitely want a VPN. I personally like NordVPN. This is not sponsored. I'm not getting any money from Nord. I'm just sharing with you how many submissions per week. HMAC, it depends on you. If you're like, listen, I'm all in, I would do 5 a week. If you're looking to do like middleman, subbing, you're like, look, I'm looking to bid on everything, I would do 5 a week because you want to get in your reps. That's not our business model. Our business model is we like to submit things that we know we're going to win. And we have multiple year contracts that bring in consistent revenue. So I don't have to bid all the time. So, but yeah, I would do that. I mean, if you're like, listen, I would do that, because then the more and more you do it, you're going to learn. And of course, this is where this comes in, or my paid community, or whatever you decide to do, it'll take you to the next level. Okay, I'm ready. You all are amazing. This has been amazing. Again, thank you all for the questions. And if you're real serious and you really are like, I want to win contracts, there's no reason you can't win one. You're one contract away. You just got to use Sam.gov to get your first win. There's no reason you can't. It's over 2,000. There's no reason you can't win a contract.